There are often times that we want to disconnect our drawings from our 3D model, and that may be if we want to do some really serious 2D drafting or editing on the outputs, or we want to send out a 2D drawing, a flat 2D drawing, to an external recipient, and that could be in DGN or DWG or DXF format. Sometimes we refer to that as freezing or exporting. There's a number of ways we can do it through the file save as option, the file export option, plus also what we can see on the screen here, using a batch process to do many drawing models all at once. The key to doing this is entering the options and going to the References tab and ensuring that all our references are set to merge and that we merge the visible edges of 3D attachments. So let's have a look at how we do that. There are times when we want to disconnect drawings from the 3D model itself and work on them in a 2D manual way. So you'll notice here that we have our reference link back to the 3D model that the viewer's created. So there are a number of ways that we can remove this link, but let's focus on the save as and export method and then have a look at a bit of a batch process to do that as well. So the save as method and the export method have the ability to merge all this data into a single file. So if we were to go and look at our options area in the save as area, we have references. And a couple of things we can do here is for the references, both self-attached and external attached, is we can choose merge. And just below that is the visible edge settings. So we can merge those visible edges in the 3D attachment. And there are a few settings in here that we can look at to replace. So once those settings are in place, the merge, and visible edges, we can give it a go and we can say 2D drawing on the end of this file name and hit save. And what that does from there is the first thing you'll notice is there are no references. It is just a straight merge of that geometry. And if we go and look at some of this geometry, it just becomes standard 2D behavior. Okay, so it means we can edit all this stuff and change things and edit text and use for this purpose. Another purpose you may want to deal with this too is for delivery. So at the other end, you may want to be able to deliver this out to a person. So let's have a look at how that may work. So first of all, what we would like to do here is to create a new file. And that new file can be a sheet. So what we'll do is we'll browse to the Sheets folder and we'll just make sure we choose a seed file that has a sheet. We have a sheet seed ISO here. And we can go in and we can give it our sheet number. Now in this case, it's a detail, but we may just name it sheet 001 and hit save. Okay, so what we might have here is first thing to check is in the models dialog box. So this delivered sheet has a number of different models depending on the size you want to represent your drawings at. So let's say we removed the ones we don't want, which is fine. And we're left with this, we'll just remove the final one here. Okay, so we want to bring our detail into the sheet, and you can do this with any different drawings you want to bring into the sheet, and maybe multiple drawings as well. So we can use our references dialog box for that purpose. And we can bring in from our drawing model, we can bring in the detail 01. Now remember, back to this diagram, this is how we may set up our models right through to the sheet model. It's not the only way of doing it, but it's certainly one of the ways. So typically when we reference in our detail, we need to go back to the drawing model, back to the assembly, and back to the sub. So in this case, it's a live nesting of 3. So therefore we've got detail 01, we can pop in there live nesting, and we can put in a value of 3. And what we'll do for the purposes of this exercise, the sheet here will be the sheet's full size. So if we want to be putting this detail on this sheet, we need to give it a scale. And in this case, it may be, and you may need to change this, but we'll try a scale of 1 to 20. And we hit OK. And there is our detail down in the corner. And you can either move the detail by right-clicking on the reference and saying Move, or alternatively, you can use this button in the Models area and move the sheet to suit as well. And there's our title block information over there. So we just move that back into position. So 2 methods there as well. And if we want to send this as a flattened file out to someone we need to distribute to, again, we can do the same thing. We can say File, Save As, and then just make sure in the options all this information is merged in together. Now there may be a need or a time when you want to create a batch process out of this. So there is a feature in a tool called Batch Converter. So what we could do is use the batch converter to perform the same function on many files. So what we could do is simply add, if we want to do it all to our drawing models, we could simply add all the drawing models that we have in here in our drawings folder. And what it is asking us for is a default destination. So we can browse to a place where we would like this to live. On top of that, we could also have the various formats that we could look to export to as well. So it could be V8i, which is what we're currently working in today, or it could be DWG, or a bunch of other formats that we have listed in here in the batch process. And finally, what we can do is to select all our drawings and say Edit V8 Save Options. You'll also notice in the DWG Save Options, we have that same ability with the merging of all the references and the merge to visible edge of 3D attachments. But for this purpose, we'll look at the V8 Save Options. And again, we have the same options here, Merge, and merge visible edges of 3D attachments. Okay, so once we're happy with our settings that we've altered, we can say Apply to Selection and then hit the Process button to process this job. And it will spit out those files to the folders that we've specified.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.